Welcome to the HiPipo Chronicles, and this is an podcast that looks at the journey of HiPipo, and that is the HiPipo Chronicles. Wherever you get podcasts from, just search for HiPipo Chronicles, and you'll be able to check out all the other episodes. We started all the way from 2005, and we are now getting into 2009. But to give you a recap, in 2008 we looked at eadeals.com, where there was selling and buying of equipment. And then we had artists getting websites designed for them. And we talked about promotion of events, getting into events and help aiding in promotion of that. Online, we looked at what was happening in terms of marketing, going to having posters put up for to promote HiPipo at the time. And then we have sending SMSs, to people for free, via the platform. And it was easy to communicate at the time. So we are getting into 2009. And speaking of 2009, that is on the HiPipo Chronicles. We are with the CEO of HiPipo, Innocent Kawooya. So how is the journey going so far?
Thank you, Mark.
Yes.
I'll start with something funny. And I'm happy to be on HiPipo Chronicles.
Yes.
Making things that I believe should be very instrumental in shaping so many entrepreneurs and innovators around the world. Well, the world is not very fair.
Yeah.
So many times.
Yes.
I just looked out on today and I just realized we were supposed to have a podcast today, and my colleague DJ Mark Xtreme was was busy in the salon getting himself to look so good. And I was coming from the garden, and
and you came with produce from the garden, so it all works out, right?
No, that's the funny thing about life. But excitedly, I'm happy. I thank God we're here.
Yes.
And we're speaking 2009.
Yes.
Well, from my point of view and from whatever was happening on my side, I was living in a place of liberty.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah, not like any other time before. I mean, I was done with my secondary school. I had dropped out of university for the first time by 2009.
Hold on, you wanted to leave school at the time when you were in high school?
Yes.
Despite all the freedoms you had, which other people wouldn't have at the time.
Yes.
But even when you get to university, you still decided to drop out.
For the first time. I dropped out 3 times.
Yes.
And found another time to study something that I really liked. But I mean, most of the things that we're finding in school were not relating with the world that we were seeing on internet.
Yes.
And the exposure we were getting was either getting us so stubborn or so curious to become something else for the world, to be able to use the knowledge and the tools that we have to transform life. On the other side, I was thinking a lot on how I could be useful at HiPipo.
Yes.
I mean, we were getting into 4 years of talking about the same conversation, working on a lot of things, paying for servers every single month, and then having 2 full-time tech people, programmers that are working on HiPipo every night. They have a day job, and every single night they have to sit on the computer for some 5-6 hours.
Yes.
Sometimes 8. If it was a Friday, maybe until morning, to make sure you write the code, you check out the bugs, to make sure things are happening the right way for the followers that we're having on HiPipo. And by that time, we had at least 10,000 unique subscribers on the HiPipo social network. And that was not heard of anywhere in Africa.
Yeah, because even at the time you were trying to create a social network.
Yes.
And even then, people were still not yet into what social media became right now. Because I know people can say, oh no, social media, maybe they thought it was the same at the time, but it wasn't the same. It was even unheard of creating a platform for Africa to unite and interact.
But wait, hold on, Mark. Has anyone even ever created a social network after that in Africa?
They tried. I know some people tried, and they ended up talking about, earning coins and stuff on that, and then, what happened to the crypto market at the moment. We are recording this, by the way, if you check this out in the later years, we are recording this in 2023.
Yes.
And the history about crypto in that time is very interesting. So that kind of didn't work out well.
Well, I know one who tried.
Yeah.
But they were trying to do a clone of HiPipo Love, turning it into, they wanted the social network, So they ended up having a dating website. And then we had done a lot of that by that time.
Yes.
But most importantly, 2009, from my point of view, was very instrumental in making sure that we create some structures that would later turn HiPipo into the HiPipo we are in 2023.
Yes.
And maybe even for the future. Strongly speaking about the digitization agenda, ensuring that we lead in digital innovation and transformation for the same conversation, ensuring that we accelerate digital inclusion, and then ensuring that there is communication and relationship with financial inclusion, because one of the biggest challenges we had ourselves was it was even very hard to even pay for a domain. By that time, I think there was probably 1 or 2 banks that had cards that could work.
Yeah.
And there were debit cards any day, anytime.
Yeah,
and
their payments at the time were interesting.
yeah, they were crazy. And I remember having a big challenge with one of the banks. I will not mention it for the sake of one of my very good friends that works in the banks for a long time.
Yes.
Otherwise, I would be saying that, but I'll be saying, but and badly, like the worst thing of it all was that I was having a challenge, and the person who was disturbing me was my namesake. It was called Innocent, and I mean, we had some money on and a card, and we wanted to pay for domains, and I mean, we spent weeks just getting payments done because they were blocked by the bank. But all that was happening. On this other side, I told you about intentionally getting to support music.
Yes.
And making sure that we deliberately create rails for musicians and get them to onboard onto formal digital rails, embrace what was available then. So we started it by making sure we bring in a few into the conversation that we knew. The likes of Big Size, Bebe Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Taking them into some kind of what you would call digital education.
Yeah,
and
orientation a bit.
And enlightening them about the possibilities and the capabilities of digitization from themselves.
Yes.
And for their brands. But on a very personal point of view, we had to get Mega Master Kid Fox, King Steven, many names.
Yes,
Steven Chigundu.
I don't know what he calls himself now. Because
I know him as Mr. Steven Chigundu.
Yes.
And I also know the Kid Fox that people loved so much in the mid 2000 and between 2000 and 2010 around there. So I remember getting Kid Fox and having to bring him into what was our office then, our sitting room. In our quarters in Kawooya. The command center.
The
digital command center of that time. And I remember, there's this funny thing. I think I told you about this thing one time, about when Kid Fox was in Wandega, and people say a rat came out of his car.
I've heard of that story.
And then it was in the red paper. So this time he had to drive with me and then get to Kawooya. And then we have this conversation with the other members that were very interested in making sure we support music at depth. I mean, create rails for music.
But at the time also, because you when you're in the moment at that time, are they buying into what the digital place would be or what it would do for their music at the time? How are the conversations going? Because I know you might have interacted with a lot of musicians before you zero down to working with Kid Fox and Bebe Cool at the time.
Yeah, well, literally everyone that we talked about was interested, but they didn't know how.
Yes.
So we had to invest some little money into supporting them. I think I told you about end of 2008, us investing some money in building
websites.
A website, the first ever musician website in East Africa. No one else had one around East Africa. So we did one for Kid Fox. I think the domain was onekidfox.com. For someone who can check out a Wayback Machine.
The Wayback Machine,
there should be some archives of it. Some pieces, probably not everything. Because part of it was done using Flash, Adobe Flash.
Yes.
Macromedia Flash of that time. And we had challenges developing the site as well, because we wanted to be a multimedia platform and wanted it to be totally non-static, a dynamic platform.
Play music.
Play music. So, we struggled. I remember struggling a lot with JW Player.
Yeah.
You remember that
because
stuff?
At the time, a lot of people were using static websites. So there's nothing else that would happen. It wasn't they were interactive. So because of that, all of us, when people would develop websites, that's the only thing that, was easier to access.
Yes.
And it wasn't as easy as now.
No, it wasn't. I mean, we had the Flash Player, JW. Now, the worst bit of always developing a dynamic website or a multimedia website then was that, yes, you have done it, but at some point, people can't access it.
Yeah.
Because their browsers are outdated, some are slow, they need Flash installed, they need Adobe installed on their computers and all that kind of stuff. Now, our little ones of this time don't have any challenge.
Yeah, they don't know about trying to have something play on the browser and it just can't.
Yeah, the browsers are enabled with HTML5 or even better stuff. Java is a part of everything. Yeah.
Actually, if they want to know how bad it was, is that people were using Facebook Zero. So where you say, instead of having a delay in loading a page, I would rather eliminate the photos and I'll just have text. So you use Facebook Zero at the time.
Yes. Which is a commendable effort, meanwhile. In a way of getting people to get included online. I mean, because social media, without a doubt, played one of the biggest roles within our economies in East and Central Africa. I guess even in Southern Africa, to get people included into formal digital rails. I mean, efforts like Facebook Zero, where someone with a feature phone
could access
and read. I imagine I never used one of them, but I feel for the people who use
Facebook Zero. You don't have to see photos at all.
Yeah, I know. I can't imagine a very nice quote without a photo.
Without a photo, absolutely.
And like that saying of pictures speak a million.
No, this time it wasn't working on this.
Yeah, but it was important that people get to realize the value that they would find.
Yeah.
And of course, many learned the value they would find. Whoever was minded about being negative on social media has used it as much. Whoever decided to build a brand has built the biggest brands. I mean, you should tell people about how you've been able to build Ijaz Radio over these times.
Yeah.
I mean, typically online.
And it's typically online. And the journey starts even long, 2010, and you start running in there. And at the time, you have only Mixcred that would have mixes. SoundCloud was also there, but it was a challenge to have people to access SoundCloud. Because they tell you, the apps is so heavy, we can't use that. So Mixcred was easier, but then it later also disappeared.
Can you imagine?
And all our content disappears on Mixcred. And you're like, now I have to start over again.
Now, for the content disappearance, I'm sure as we get into the episode, I'll tell you stuff about losing content every other day. Yeah. But imagine, when people should imagine how someone wakes up and creates a platform like Ijaz Radio, and one day, without even ever advertising on any radio, you are number one streaming in the whole country. Yeah, and you are number one. You are in top 10 in Africa top 5 in Africa for 4 consecutive years. Yeah, I mean, such efforts are commendable. And for the things that we are desirous and we were desirous of building in the digital space, with examples like Ijaz Radio, we're saying, can we show the youth, the women, the opportunities that come with connectivity, with the usage of internet? Can they leverage this and make sure they create their own opportunities, serve themselves, earn a decent living, and also create a very amazing distribution network of whatever it is, whether it is education content, whether it is music, because music as well can be education, whether it is film and all that kind of stuff. And yes, 2009 in one part was that. Technically, we were working on a lot of things. I remember there are campaigns that we did around that time. Can you guess one of them?
The campaigns as far as music goes? Or
as far as music.
Oh no, music goes. I knew about the charts at even streaming the playlist that I knew about.
I think we will go to the playlist maybe in the next episode, but I'll tell you something. Let me tell you this thing about Arakeli Must Play Hits. You remember?
Yeah, when that is one of the telecom companies was trying to bring him to Uganda.
Zayn. I think it was Zayn
at the time.
Yeah.
Now it's
not
Airtel,
yet. It was Zayn by then.
It was Zayn then.
So I remember, like I told you about creating the first ever blog around the region for
an event.
UB40, for an event dedicated. So this time we created a custom web app, progressive in some nature. Today we call them progressive web apps, but by then we did as much as we could to customize a campaign that we called R. Kelly Must Play Hits. And we were getting users, more than maybe 40,000 users over a period of months, to engage in playing music online and then choosing what they want R. Kelly to play at the concert. You remember, for me, it ended up in good and bad news. Our friend Baby Cool was shot that morning.
I mean, that was around Centenary Park.
Yeah, around Centenary Park. Yeah. On the other side, we had run a very successful campaign. I have been struggling before we came to record this podcast about whether we actually got anything from Zayn. I don't think
any content creator in Uganda can answer that.
Yeah, I've been struggling if they even never gave us a free ticket, because we approached them several times and showed them, and they were seeing how useful it was, and there was the people selling internet on one side, you know. But I've been struggling to remember if they even ever gave us a free modem for promoting their concert for a long time. But yes, we created some very good content. We had so many people engaging over a period of about 3 months non-stop. And then we had something that actually grew out a lot out of that, because we're leveraging the playlist functionality to promote the R. Kelly Must Play Hits campaign. And I mean, we got a lot of things from our point of view. But as well, we were thinking of diversifying. We had gained some good skills, myself, Master, George Kasacha, and everyone else were good at design. So we were thinking of creating HiPipo Studio. And this one was not a music studio, much as we had skills in cinematography. But this one was one we were thinking we could dedicate on creating animated content. Using Aya and Maya, and all those other tools. And I mean, diversifying, because you want to find ways of making sure you are sustainable and maybe profitable. But profitable is in one thing talked about, but very hard to achieve for businesses, especially in the digital space around Africa. So all this was happening around that time. And I mean, on one side, you want to design graphics because you think you can do them well, yet you're not in any way qualified as an industrial art and design student or professional. I mean, all the things were happening. But for everyone that is watching, is to tell you the story of how you need to diversify, of how much we need to do every single time to build these that we call brands today. These that people are proud of seeing, that are proud of associating with. And in all, that part of it was really an amazing one on our point of view.
Yeah, and until we are looking at 2009 for anyone that is joining at the moment. I don't know where you've been, but we have many episodes that have aired before this, and that's from 2005. We are into 2009, and we are looking at now going to market, designing websites for musicians, trying to get them to go beyond designing just a website, but to also now find a way of making their music profitable by using the digital channels at the time that were available, which were very limited, by the way. And this is not only in Uganda, this was across the world. People aren't so big on digital streaming platforms right now, like how you'd go on Spotify now or any of the other platforms and play music. That wasn't the same at the time. So there's some music even that came out at the time that you cannot find anywhere online, that you just have to, people that had the files at the time are the ones that can give you access to that for you to even listen to that. So we are looking at HiPipo trying to push that and create an avenue which musicians today that are blowing up from TikTok. This is 2009 and we are talking about that, but you see how long it took, more than 11 years.
Yeah, sure.
To get to this point. Yeah. So these things take time for anyone that is creating content and creating an avenue in the digital space. It takes time. As long as you're consistent with it, it helps. But we are going to get into more of 2009 in the next episode. But for 2009, to wrap up this first episode of 2009, what were some of the lessons and takeaways for the year 2009 earlier on?
Well, 2009, we learned about being diverse.
Yes.
So we had to branch into what we called HiPipo Zone. That was a failure in so many ways.
It's good though. It's an attempt. I don't feel usually when you attempt, I don't feel like it's a failure. It's just that it didn't work out, but you attempted.
Yeah, sorry, I have to call it failure, not because it failed, but because we had to find ways of living it very fast. Because we were doing things that were not our business. So I mean, we started from that. Then it helped us learn a lot to do with copyright and all the likes.
You had a rude awakening at the time.
That was very important. Looking at music that is not ours, looking at music of Taylor Swift and the likes, looking at the musicians that are in Europe and America, and then there's actually a lot of fences that surround this music. Go slow. And I actually, in the next episode, because we are dealing with content creation, we are dealing with the promotion of musicians, digital inclusion at the time, also trying to advocate for that and advocating for access to good internet, fast internet, because everything you are doing was based on the population having internet at the time. So that comes up in the next episode. 2009, the HiPipo Chronicles. This is part 1. So you might want to check out part 2 to find out what happened later on in the year 2009. But this is the HiPipo Chronicles. We are with the CEO of HiPipo, Innocent Kawooya. My name is Mark Xtreme. Until the next one, get HiPipo Chronicles wherever you get podcasts from, and follow HiPipo on all social media platforms to get more of the information that you would like to know in detail, or some of the other work we do at HiPipo. Until then, we have absolutely nothing for you.